what's the onboarding process look like?
So if we think about the setup for, let's assume that all liquidity providers are banks for a minute, and that's not necessarily true, but in general
Sure.
it is. If you want to get set up for especially hedging, that means that you're trading instruments that are derivatives. So normally it's FX forwards, swaps, non-deliverable forwards if it's emerging markets. And in order to onboard with a bank or liquidity provider, you normally need to have what's called an ISDA in place, an ISDA agreement, an International Swap and Derivative Association agreement that governs your derivatives. And basically creating and setting up these ISDA agreements for what is essentially a second order requirement for you as a corporate is basically an enormous pain. It's very cumbersome. It's a highly legally complex set of documents. It takes an awful amount of time for both you and the banks. And so it can be, when we say onboarding liquidity providers, it specifically means creating the necessary legal framework in order to have a trading relationship on a bilateral basis. Basically takes ages and it's a massive pain.
What would MillTech's involvement be in creating that ISDA agreement?
So the difference with someone like us, and we, for good order's sake, we're not a bank, we're not a broker, we're not a market maker. We're an access point to the wholesale market, if you will. And as a result, what we have in place are what are called agency ISDA agreements. So they're ISDA agreements in our name as agent. So we own the documents and all the negotiation, and we can onboard a client under those agency ISDAs for them to face the banks from a credit perspective, but under our terms. So we remove a lot of the negotiation headache and even some of the KYC AML burden because clients sit under our pre-agreed, pre-negotiated agency agreements.
Understood. So does that mean a corporate wouldn't necessarily need, they would still need an ISDA agreement, but the amount of effort it takes to get the ISDA agreement in place is a lot less if they're working with MillTech?
Yeah, it would mean that they wouldn't need their own ISDA. So they would still sit under an ISDA. It would just so happen to be our ISDA that we own as agent. And it means that a lot of the operational headache that goes into negotiating one from scratch disappears.
Understood.
So it's a big operational cost saving.